5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Dangerzone. Today we are going to talk about insider attacks. And I have a Sark here with me who has a first-hand account, and he's going to share a story today. So, dude, thanks for being here and, having this conversation with me.
Thanks for having me, man. It's pretty cool.
So, for those of you that don't know, an insider attack is where when we're deployed as an American force and we're working with a host nation military or partnered nation military, and one of them or a group of them turns on us and ends up wounding or killing our guys. That's what we refer to as an insider attack. Also been called like blue on green and a couple other terms, but it's definitely gaining prevalence within FID, and which is definitely a mission that Special Operations has been doing a lot of during OEF, OIF, all over the world, and it's definitely an ever-present on guys' mind. I don't know that it was as prevalent in Vietnam and other wars. But, so anyways, dude, I'll let you kind of set this up and frame it up, and let's hear your first-hand account of what it was like.
All right. So we were deployed in the Helmand Valley, Afghanistan in 2012. Summer fighting season, between Jeschke and Sangin. It was a normal day, like any other day. Mail came that day, so I guess it wasn't normal. It was a good day, right? The snacks and all the letters from home and everything.
Yeah, mail call.
So about like 10:30 at night, we had a giant Shura. I think like 60 villagers from all around the area came to our VSP and sat down and just talked about some of the issues that were going on and what they wanted from the American forces. And we had our ANA, and our ALP, that's who we were more in charge of, is the ALP. And so I stood watch that night. I stood a 4-hour block on Tower 4, uneventful. I was like pretty excited because we were supposed to get some Age of Empires 2 in the mail.
Damn.
Three copies for myself, the EOD tech, and another one of the CSOs. And we're going to play it in our free time just a little bit here and there.
Ages of Empires, is that where you go from like beginning of civilization to like modern day warfare, or is that like a certain time period?
I think you have it right. I'd never played it. Those two guys were kind of into it.
Yeah.
And they were like, wanted me to get, like, we could link our computers together, I guess, and play it. Like, we each have our own empire and we like build it up from scratch. So,
yeah.
And then you like conquer other empires or each other, just depending on like how things are going, you know?
So you're off watch. You're stoked to fucking get this shit.
Yeah. As I'm off watch. I'm like taking my gun and my kit back to the team room. I go back to the team room. I go into the talk, and there was a couple dudes in there. Let's see, there's five guys in there or so, and I went in knocked on the T-skiff. That's where the EOD tech and the other guy were at, and they're like, dude, we only got 2 copies of the game. My wife, and the letter right here, it says, we didn't get a 3rd copy. And it's like 1 a.m. now, and or maybe midnight, roughly. I mean, I'm not sure. And I was like, all right, shit. Well, so like an important part of the story is like, had we got a 3rd copy, I would have stayed in there and like went and got my computer and started installing it and like setting up to, play for maybe an hour or something like that.
Wow. Yeah.
So anyways, they didn't have it. So I was like kind of bummed, but no big deal. I just like put my stuff away, and I went back to my room and I laid down for, I don't think I was like fully asleep yet, but sometime in the night, I heard like someone just knocked on my door, like one solid knock, like super hard. Like, bam! I was like, the fuck? Who's fucking around? Like, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, whatever. You know how guys are. And I just rolled over. And then like the next one, it was like 2 minutes later maybe. And it's like, boom. And the door flung open, flashlight in my face. And they're like, Doc, we fucking need you in the talk. There's some shit going down. Like, I was like, jumped up, like threw my pants on, grabbed my Glock, and I started like making my way to the talk. I went into the talk. As I went in there, it was like smoke filled. The whole talk was filled with smoke, and I thought like an IED had detonated because, you know, sometimes we take parts in there and like try to get information, you know.
Yeah.
Fingerprints off the tape or whatever. And I just thought maybe one had detonated, and there's guys on the ground, medics, like the other corpsman is like, dude, check those guys out, just make sure they're up. And I fucking took a look, and the two guys that I had like eyes on at the time on the floor were both like dead, like killed in action. There's no breathing, no pulse, no heartbeat, nothing. So we covered them up. We had a wounded dude. I still thought a bomb had gone off. I didn't know what had happened.
It still
was
didn't
like so
click,
smoky, you know, like is a complete like. I was just like, what's going on? What's going on? And like as I'm looking at these dudes, and like I look over and I see another CSO, and he's like, he got a tourniquet on his arm, and his like hands kind of shredded out, like you could see he's bleeding all over his pants. And the other corpsman asked me to go grab some med supplies from the medics area, like our clinic, you know, right across the way. So I like still hadn't like dawned on me that like we're in danger, you know, like there could still be people on our compound or whatever. I was just like, okay, a bomb went off or something. As I like started heading over there, I noticed like round casings all over the floor. And that's when like, as I walked out into the team room where I just put my gear like probably an hour and a half ago, I like see like blood, and then like someone had been dragged all bloody, right? And it's like, what the fuck? And I go and I still can't figure it out. It's like just a cloud of confusion, like almost like a dream where everything is on your peripherals, you know, aren't there. You just like have your direct line of vision.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? So I didn't like grab my kid or my other rifle or anything. I just walked across to the clinic, and I go in there. All the lights are on, and there's another CSO on the table, and he's also deceased, covered up. But I like, didn't know who it was. I pull the blanket off. I see, and I was like, holy shit. I grab the drugs I need, give the guy some pain meds. I come back. I give the pain meds to the patient, and at that time, my element leader had he came in there, and he's like, "What the fuck?" And he just told me to get my kid on, get up on the roof, and so I did. I got my kid on and went up on the roof, and then that's I was still on the roof for like about an hour or so, and now that I've painted like the picture of what happened, I'm gonna like take you back and walk you through like after.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah.
That was actually a really good way of doing it. It's like you kind of captured how quick this shit happened. And just how overwhelming a situation like that can be.
So I mean, at the time, like as I got put up on the roof, like I still like I'm trying to piece it together. Everybody's trying to piece it together.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take you back through like the rest of the story and fill in the gaps of where some other people were, and like how we figured, like, you know, basically crime scene investigated after like 48 hours after, and like figure out exactly what happened. But when everybody's stories came together after the Shura that night, like when I walked back from the tower to put my nods and my kit in the team room, checked in on Age of Empires and all that, there was like an ALP, but also an ANA still on the compound. Like somehow
Afghan local police.
Yeah, sorry,
and
I'm sorry.
Afghan National Army.
I forgot, some of the listeners might not know what those terms are. So he was like both. He worked in the ANA, but he was also a local police for the area that we were in. He had he'd stayed on the compound, like, with his AK and just hid, like, in the shadows. And then he must have been had a plan, or he's trying to figure out a plan. One of the guys that got deceased, he was the team chief, found him walking around on the base. He, like, saw him. He, like, flashlighted him, I guess. He went over to him, and he's like, you know, they don't speak the same language, but he's just thought, hey, maybe this guy's here for a meeting with one of the guys in the talk, and they have an extra private meeting or something. So I guess it plays out like this. He takes him into the talk, and he's asked all the dudes that were in there, the captain and the EOD tech and anyone, hey, you got a meeting with this guy? And I guess he was, like, pretty calm in there. The ALNL guy, he was just chilling. He's like, no, we don't have a meeting with him. I guess they knew who he was. Like, they've talked to him before privately and such. You've ran ALP before. You know who's who. And, like, we know this guy. He's been here 10 or 11 times. So, you know, no one had a meeting with him. So the team chief is like, all right, I'm going to escort him out. And so I drew up a quick diagram for you, and it will help maybe the listener understand what's going on here. But I guess after he walked him out of the talk there in the team area, those doors have cipher locks on them. And
oh, wow, yeah.
So he shut the cipher lock behind him, but then, like, in a polite American gesture, he stepped in front of him to open the next door to let him out. And when he pulled that door open to let him out, that guy just brought his AK up from sling, and just from point, like, AK muzzle in your back, shot him like a magazine's worth in his back. And he went down with the door open, like, right in the doorway there. And that's when an ALP guy reloaded his magazine, turned, and then, so it's like plywood on studs, you know how talks normally are.
Yeah.
Turned and then dumped a second mag through, like, the cipher, like, around the cipher lock, and, like, through into the talk, just like random spraying, but also, like, trying to defeat the mechanism on the lock.
Yeah. So this team room is sort of the gateway into this whole area, and so that's like the only access point.
Yeah.
And then
minus that, there's a door right back here that Chris didn't drop.
Yeah.
There's a door out, and that's an important door.
Okay.
So, just to, like, paint the picture of the room. Sorry, I'm going to adjust this microphone a little bit.
Yeah.
To paint the picture of the room here, inside the center of the talk, we had a couch here, and that's where two guys were sitting, and then up in this corner, the captain was sitting up on the top on his computer.
Yeah.
So he sprang through this door, sprang straight through the door there. Those rounds were, like, going directly towards the captain and the two guys on the couch.
Jeez.
As this is all happening, the two dudes on the couch, like, got up and tried to exit out that door that I just told you that Chris didn't draw.
Yeah.
And he got, so that guy kicked in the door because he, like, destroyed the mechanism on the lock. And I guess he reloaded prior to, like, kicking in the door. So as he came in, he was taking 1911 rounds, like, at him, but just none landed. Those two guys that were on the couch were, like, trying to get out that side exit so they could come around and flank him. And as you could, like, see his rounds as he comes in, because he was, like, in the action of reloading. He, like, put his magazine in and he kicked that door in to, like, come in, like Terminator style, I guess. I don't know. Like, you could see the rounds going up. Like, he shot the ground like 4 times, and then, like, they rose up. So, like, he was low, bringing it up, probably trying to hit the dude's heading out that side door simultaneously. And he turned to the left as he came in and fired a round at those two guys, wounding one of the CSOs. That's the guy that got hit in the elbow there. So just to, like, pause the main story, those guys go out there. They have 2 pistols and a wounded Marine. So they take off one of their belts and they tourniquet up his arm with a belt. And instead of like pressing back in, they're like waiting for him to come. He like gets the wounded Marine behind him, and he stands there just at the ready, just like waiting for him to poke that door, and he's gonna drop him.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he never stepped out that door. So he's in a gunfight now with the captain, and the captain dumped his whole magazine on the 1911, and it looked like he was mortally wounded as he was doing a quick reload. Like his pistol had no magazine in it when we looked at everything, you know?
Yeah.
And he fell face down, and as I guess I gave the guy time to reload, he walked over to Jeschke, the captain, and at the same time in this back room that you'll see in the diagram when he puts it up on camera, there was a guy in there, and the EOD tech, and he had the option to go out the back door and just like basically hide in a safe triple locked area. You know, you couldn't get back there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little smoking area or whatever you want to call it. There's some bathrooms back there and stuff. Instead, he chose to use his M4 and come out that fatal funnel there into the main talk. And he got off like 3 rounds before he fell in the fatal funnel. So that guy proceeded to dead check the captain, the EOD tech on the floor, and then make his way out of there. The side note that's like crazy is in there on the floor we had like 5 240s like ready, like loaded, ready to go. Like he could have sat in there with those weapon systems and, you know, just like decimated us all as we came in the building, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that team room, like each guy's kit's there with like, you know what's in kit, like grenades, flashbangs, every single thing that you need to conduct war. Like he had access to all that, but I think he accomplished his mission is what he was trying to do, is take out the top, you know, cut the head off the snake, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So other team guys heard gunfire so like back into this main portion. As he's exiting, what you can't see off diagram over here, there's like a hole in a compound wall that we go to and from, like where our MWR area is. And the other SARC was over there Facebooking his wife or whatever, his girlfriend at the time. And he heard gunfire and he thought Tower 4, which like got in and whipped it on like every other week or so, was getting it on from the gunfire. So he's rushing over to get his weapon and like, you know, go help the tower out. And so crazy thing is he saw someone running from the team room, like right out that door. And he just, one thing I forgot to mention is the ALP guy shot all the comm equipment, you know, all the stuff that you have to like communicate outside, like everything that's all in the stack. He wasted that stuff. And they had no power, no internet, no comm, nothing. He shot it all up. And then, so anyways, as he was coming around the corner from the MWR, he saw the ALP dude running, but he just thought it was a team guy running towards the tower, you know, just like, that's what he already thought was going on. So that picture, it just like played in perfectly to like what his mind had already painted. As he went into that doorway there, he saw the team chief on the ground, like gasping, agonal breaths. And he's like, I don't know, as silly as it sounds, the way he described it to me is he thought it was a drill, like a training thing. He like didn't even believe it yet, you know. He's just like, what?
Yeah.
And that's how the trails of blood and the dragging of the body that I talked about in the beginning. He drug him over to medical and started working on him. And then when he was in medical, he just that's when it like dawned on him. Like it happened so fast, he just didn't even know that it happened. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I need my kit. I need my gun. I need to see what the rest of the talk looks like. And that's when he went over there. He was the first guy on the scene, if you will. And he saw all of that I've described. So he began, you know, doing the medic thing and treating those patients.
I just feel this like sinking in my stomach, dude. It's like being in the village stability operation stuff, like these sites, like it's just it's playing out in my head. Like I've been in so many situations where this could have happened, you know, and I can see just feeling that feeling of like all this fucking awful shit just happened like that, you know, and trying to piece all that shit together, like while the shit's happening. It's just, it's so fucked. It's such a different aspect of when you're getting attacked externally, because that's what you're there to do. You're there to fight like the enemy outside your walls, you know. And it reminds me of one of the other insider attacks where guys, one of the special forces guys turned inboard and started rocking the camp with the RPGs and 240 fire, and guys were running through the 240 fire to get to post because they thought it was coming from external, and it took guys forever to realize that, oh no, this is one of the guys we're working with, you know.
Yeah, it's I like to assimilate it to Generation Kill. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. You've seen it. But he's talking to the reporter out, and they're taking like some sniper fire, and the reporter's like, "Hey man, this is unsafe." But the captain in Generation Kill's like, "No man, safety is relative. It's like we have cover behind this big tire, so we're safe because the sniper's over there." And that's kind of like how it feels when you're inside your compound over there. You're like, we're in a super dangerous place, probably the most dangerous place in the world, you know, one of them. Mm-hmm. But you feel safe because you're inside of a compound and you have heavy firepower and a team of guys that, you know, can operate on like a surgical level. So like, yeah, it's one of the biggest things I try to like explain to people that have never been over there is like, you're not like always in fear. It's in the back of your mind, but like you actually do feel safe. Like, you know, we weren't walking around fully armored all the time over there. You just might have a pistol and a flashlight and a little med bag around your waist, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that guy, that ALP guy actually made it off of our compound, ran past Tower 1. But, I mean, he's in A&A ALP uniform. Tower 1 saw him, but just whatever, you know, the tower's far enough away. There's like gunfire going on in Afghanistan all the time. You like, it's like sounds far away, it sounds near. You just saw an ALP guy like jogging by, really, and he didn't, you know, that doesn't give you grounds to shoot someone. We didn't have comms. No one like got on the radio right away and was like, "Hey, we're under attack." No alarms were going off. You know, it was just gunfire and then quiet like normal. And he just saw him go past, and so that guy actually escaped to Pakistan and bragged about that on Al Jazeera TV. That was like one of the hardest hitting blows of the whole thing, was that he was that cocky. And you know, after you lose like really good friends and team members, like no one wants to have your face rubbed in it.
Yeah,
it's fucking heavy. So. Now we'll go back to when I'm on the roof now.
Yeah.
So adjacent to our compound, we had an A&A compound. They had just kind of like taken it over and built their little base there. And we had built what's called a friendship door. And it was highly contested. Like no one wanted it. The captain thought it was important that we have a door with a cipher lock that we can go back and forth from their compound. And be able to meet, you know, the more open you make it, the better. You know, like you show them that we're working together and we're not scared of you. And so we think that might be a way that he got in. Like he just, maybe as the door shut, he didn't shut it all the way or whatever, you know, just that's how we stayed on our base. Cause like we escorted them all off. We just don't, there's like a lot, like 50 guys. So I was up on the roof and one of the CSOs was going over there to see, you know, are they like armored up, ready to fight us? You know, we don't know. We're like still on high alert. And he couldn't remember the cipher lock code, or maybe he just didn't know it. I don't know. But he shot the cipher lock out. And I was standing on the roof It had been quiet since I'd been out there, you know, and I heard that those rounds go off, and I looked to that direction, and I was like right on the edge of the roof, and there was like a plank that you walked across to the HESCO wall, and then in between that HESCO wall, there's like a 2-foot area, and then the compound wall. So it was like wall, HESCO wall, plank to roof.
Yeah.
Well, I stepped wrong, and I fell in between the wall, the compound wall, and the HESCO wall.
Jeez.
Head first, just straight down. I got my bootlaces were like wrapped around the HESCO wire. If you're not familiar, HESCO's like cloth bags that you fill with dirt, rocks, and sand to like make a wall quickly with like a tractor.
Yeah.
But it's like wire, like a galvanized wire that goes up and down. But my bootlace like got caught in that as I fell, and I was like suspended upside down in between two walls, and there's like gunfire just went off. Like, you know what I mean?
Jesus.
As I fell, though, my slung rifle, funny thing is it hit me in the face, and it blackened my eye, like probably not instantly, but pretty quick. My eye swelled up and was pretty much swollen shut. It broke the optic off the top of my gun, and it was hanging on by the chicken wire that we wire them on with, and it bent my barrel. Didn't know my barrel was bent then, you know, just like...
Wow.
So I was like hanging there yelling, and someone else like heard and came, and I was like stuck. I couldn't get my foot free, and the walls like got a little tighter as they went down. So like my armor was like kind of pinned in the walls. I was like just stuck back there, helpless. I was just yelling, like getting on comms, like trying to like, hey man, I'm stuck between these two walls. Like no one knows why I'm stuck between two walls or anything like that. And little pieces of kit are like falling out and stuff. And one of the army dudes like came up there and got me and like pulled me up on my leg. But yeah, so the next day I had to go back there and get all my shit. But so I had a black eye, so everyone kind of thought that I maybe got in a confrontation with the attacker, you know, like they didn't, like that was a little side story. But so at the same time as like I'm on the roof and he's going over there to check A&A, he goes over there and like tactically questions the A&A, and one of their guys is supposed to be there is not there. And he's like trying to find out where he's at. They don't know anything about it, yada yada, same old story that you typically get from him. And he got on a motorcycle there and had taken off. I mean, as far as that goes, like birds came, took the wounded guy out. We like cleared the compound like 4 or 5 times, you know, and then we stayed up. And the quick reaction force showed up from like 50 miles south. It was a SEAL team, and then they cleared our whole compound. And got a head count, you know, did all the stuff you would do if you were inside or attacked. And then we like started piecing it all together. The thing that's like the hardest thing to like really, that for me the hardest thing was like after we knew what happened and like had that other video game. This is like where if I was considered to have PTSD, which I don't consider myself to or anything like that, but if I did, this is like the thing that runs in my mind. I play the same scenario except for the game showed up. There was 3 copies. I was in there. Well, I was in there fully armored and with my kit on, my helmet, my gun. I'd just been on like tower watch, you know? So the game was in there. What if I stayed in there 25, 30 more minutes just bullshitting with those guys? And then that dude came in, you know? Then I play out the story. Like sometimes I win in the story. Sometimes I lose in the story. It just never... It's unresolved, the story. It doesn't have a real ending. It's like my imagination. But that's what... If I lay at night and like think... If it comes back into my mind and I think about it, which sometimes it does... That's what plays through my mind. Like, what if I was in there? Would I have stopped it? Would I have got killed? You know, would I have been injured? Like, what if when I was walking out of there, I would have got shot in the back too? Just like all these, like, I mean, I guess not to make it about myself, but that's just that's what happens to me. It's what plays over and over.
Yeah.
It's that. Like, what if I would have stopped?
I would say that's really natural.
Yeah.
To think about it in that way. And gameplay, and that's the advantage everybody has after something happens. Even people looking at it externally can be like, oh, well, they did this fucked up, or, you know, they should have done it this way or that way. Or, you know, and then you turn that personally where you're like, man, I could have done this, could have done that. And,
and that's the hardest part too, though, because that's just imagination, you know, it's like, like I was in my room when it happened.
Yeah.
So like,
ultimately you were where you're supposed to be.
Yeah. It's just like, how crazy was that? You know, one game was sold out. I only had 2 copies, you know, that's what, it's like, I guess a little bit, you know,
but even then, like, you know, even if the game didn't show up, what if all of a sudden they started talking about a subject that kept you there, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, it could have been, there's so many factors that play into it.
Another side factor was we used to have 2, what we call them MWR units inside the talk. So guys would like, because there's only like 4 in our MWR thing. So guys would sometimes stand there and like do whatever they did on the internet in their free time, you know, in there. But recently we decided like, hey, it's like kind of detrimental because dudes are like goofing off a little bit in like the area of business. So they just like a week prior said no more. And so we took those 2 computers into the MWR. So there's 6 in there. So there could have been 2 more guys in there, you know, just those what ifs, those little tiny, like a butterfly effects, if you will, that could have changed everything, you know?
Yeah.
It's just.
What was the first knock on your door? That one knock.
It was I don't actually know. I think it was just whoever was doing it was like trying to alert everybody. Our doors are like flagged with like who you are, what unit, like, are you in the Army? Are you, you know what I mean? Like, are you, et cetera, et cetera. And I think they were just trying to like wake everyone up, but then they like realized like, oh, that's the medic's room. We should probably get his ass. You know what I mean? Like, so then but you know, they didn't know. What if that guy was hiding in my room? You know, so like they were clearing everything as they were doing it. So it could have been that he like came straight to the medic's room and he's like, wait, and the other guy's like, no, we're leaving doors that haven't been cleared. Cause like to get to my room, there's like 3 doors before that. So maybe they cleared those other rooms first and then came to my room. I never know what the first like loud knock was, but I just remember like, leave me alone, man. Like, why are you fucking knocking on my door at 1 a.m? Like, don't be a dick. That's what my first thought was. You know, I didn't think, oh, we could be having an attack or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, anytime there's like multi-system casualties or anything like that, you know, they come straight there like, hey, man, we need you, you know. And then as soon as I heard the guy's voice, I don't remember who it was, to be honest with you. I just knew. And like as I was walking like over to the talk, there's like already like a couple teams of 2, you know, pushing around, like checking, clearing areas, you know what I mean? So like I saw that as I was going over there and I still just didn't know. It's just really hard to piece together as you're like jogging, like putting your belt on, like got your Glock, and you're like, okay. I mean, if you've never been to Afghanistan too, it's pretty dark at night. So it's like just pitch black except for like dudes roaming by with like their guns and their flashlights. And
I know after that happened, we changed up the way we did things.
Oh yeah, so we did too,
and
big time.
I don't think I'm going to go into detail about it, but
yeah, no, absolutely not.
It was that was definitely a game changer, and it's just it's the thing that you'd never wanted to have to we thought about it and talked about it, you know, and everything, but it's just like it's one of those things like it's not going to happen to me, you know. At least that's how it was for me. Like there was times where I was on alert with those guys. You know, I was alertful and watching when we knew they were there. But I mean, you guys didn't even know he was in the camp.
Yeah,
you know, he's
and
in
like, he could have done that, and then I could have saw him for whatever reason. Like I could have been using the head, and I could have saw him and dressed in his uniform. It was like normal for a guy to be on our base, dressed in that uniform.
Well, we're working with these guys.
Yeah, they're like, we're training them and teaching them how to do it for themselves. Like, that's the goal anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, it just...
And it's like the other one that happened where luckily, you know, no Americans died, but the Afghan Special Forces dude killed his own Afghan team leader. And
that was on that same deployment, a different team. So
yeah. And I'd worked with that team before, that Afghan Special Forces team.
When ours cracked off, like the following day there was one, and then the following day there was another one. Like, it was during the end of Ramadan or whatever. They just like, was it some giant mastermind plan by the Taliban? I don't know. Like, maybe it was just one guy acting individually who saw a weakness. Like, maybe he didn't know he was going to go through with it.
Mm-hmm.
On the news, he said he like had planned it, you know, but like, you know how they're so boastful. They're just like, they could never be like self-aware and be real with like the media. They'd have to just put their propaganda on it. So who's to say? But, you know, but I want to back up and just say something I didn't get to say at the time. And this is not just the MSOT that I was with. Like, it was like the MSOTs before and the ones that established that VSP, you know, and like did all the heavy lifting to make it. But when we got there and started running it, it became the most successful VSP operation like in the history of Afghanistan or any VSP operation. We had the most white space. We had the most ALP police. Yeah. We had the most checkpoints. We had the least amount of like conflict within our area, because it was just working and it was running smooth. We had higher ups come and visit us and like ask us what we were doing that was different.
Yeah.
And again, I want to reiterate, I'm not saying our MSOT was the one who was that good. I'm saying like all the work accumulative to like when we got the VSP had came to that point.
You know what I'd attribute a lot of that to?
What's that?
Is 1st Recon Battalion going through Sangin.
Yeah, those guys did good work.
And when you take enough bad dudes off a battlefield, it, I think, provides a nice, peaceful time following, you know? But it's only a matter of time. I mean, when you start pulling out of areas, it just gives it, it's like, you know, creates a vacuum like we've seen in Iraq recently and shit like that. But
the thing is, there's like a never-ending supply of bad dudes. They're all poor, you know?
Yeah.
Not like they're just impoverished, so a little bit of any gain can like make them do just the most heinous of things, you know?
Yeah.
But like, I guess what I like about the special operations is that they don't care so much for low-level players. Like, they're a bad dude, but there's higher level bad dudes, if that makes any sense. And that's kind of who MSOT and the recon battalions go after.
Yeah.
They're, you know, like I said earlier, cut the head off the snake, right?
Yeah. Dude, this is a super heavy topic, man. It's like, it's just bringing up all these memories I have from deployment. When I was over the ALP, this is after all those attacks, dude. And it's right in a time when we're starting to pull back resources. So now, like, we're cutting, like, pay, like, providing ammo, guns, like, food, resources to them. And they're, like, still fighting the Taliban and getting killed, like, on a weekly basis. And they're coming to me, like, hey, we need stuff. And I'm like, sorry, we don't do that anymore, you know? And trying to, like, maintain a healthy relationship during that period was fucking hell. It was just like, you know, at one point it was a payday and we're like, hey, these dudes aren't like, you know, this checkpoint commander's trying to get, like, you know, more money than, you know, the money he's used to getting. And we're like, no, you know, these dudes who aren't here anymore, they're like, you're not getting the money for them, you know? And he, like, got all fucking pissed, walks out. And, you know, we have a good security system set up on payday. And we knew it was going to be, like, a shitty one, right? We knew, like, tempers might be high, you know, and, like, it was going to be some drama. And so we're just trying to like manage it the best we had, but we were definitely plussed up on security. But of course, it never plays out how you think. And like this dude storms out and like walks down this hill like 100 meters down to his car, fucking flings open the door, and it's like right when the like sun's like down right around his car. So you're looking down and you can't like really see what's going on, even with your like optics and stuff. And then we just hear like an AK rack, you know, and down by his cars where we had all the other ALP staged with all their weapons, right? So they still haven't been brought up to us to be like, you know, disarmed and everything to like be brought in to get their pay. So he's down there with like a little army, and all of a sudden we fucking hear this AK rack, and it's like this, dude, I swear you could have heard just like a fucking pin drop in that moment. It was like time froze, and it was just this like, was this shit, it could have gone so many fucking bad ways. Like, I would say somebody had the right to fucking shoot that dude, you know, as soon as that AK racked, and like his demeanor and like what was happening. But he was surrounded by other police who also had guns. And if we had a shot that dude, what would it, standoff, dude, it would have just been a fucking huge battle, like right there in front of our gate. And luckily, like, dudes, everybody dropped down and had like their shit like honed in on him. And he like, before he came up around his door, he basically like looked up and then like got in his car and sped off. And like, if he hadn't have done that, that situation would have been just completely fucked, you know?
Yeah. It's like, I could think of 10 off my hand, like scenarios just like that, where the tensions are super high and you're like, what the fuck is going to happen? But it never seems to happen when it's like that. When you're like ready, like everything's in place, like this will be a battle, but we're in good position. It's always, from my experience, it's like you're eating breakfast and you're not thinking about that particular time going crazy.
Yeah.
I had a point, but I just lost it. Oh, well.
But dude, I don't know how I should have just loaded this on the computer. I might try and bring it in later. But there's a diagram. You want to... Here, hold on. I'm going to move it to the camera here. So when he was telling the story, there we go. Here's medical, where he ended up with that dude. Here's the team room where the guy entered and then shot through here into the talk area. And then this was that area. This is where the door was that the guys ran out of. And I'm guessing he escaped back out of the team room.
Yeah, he went right back out the team room, because that's where the other SARC saw him running off from. Yeah, so like I'm sure the other SARC, I mean, I've never really talked to him about it, but I'm sure he replays or regames his him seeing that guy running off in his mind, just the same way I play had I been in the talk.
Yeah.
You know, he like basically saw the guy, just had no idea that what had happened. No one could have known. It was impossible, you know.
Well, damn, dude. Thanks for sharing your story, man. That's some really real shit, and I'm sorry you went through that, man. Like, I personally, like, I didn't lose any of my friends over in Afghanistan. I had an EOD tech that died on base in Camp Pendleton, you know, after multiple deployments, and so I can't know what it's like to go through that on a deployment, but
yeah, it sucked. It's a horrible loss of life, and just makes you question for what, you know. But that's what we all signed up to do, is protect this country. So
yeah, it's easier to question afterwards the why, but I feel like we were all in it when we were there.
Oh yeah, you have to be though. You got to put everything else in a little cupboard and lock that cupboard while you're there.
Mm-hmm.
Can't be worried about baby mama drama, or that's when like accidents happen that you shouldn't happen, you know.
Yeah.
Like this was like a freak thing. I wouldn't call it an accident, you know. I'd call it just like, whether it was a well planned or just a guy got super duper lucky. It happened, and it seems like everyone that passes is always like the best dude, you know. And those guys, those 3 guys and the dude wounded, I mean, he still can't use his hand and like type on a keyboard or use a mouse very well, you know.
Yeah.
So he's like disabled now because of it, essentially. Those dudes were like some of the best dudes I've met in the community, like just like the most squared away, the most tactical, like know their craft, and just it still happened to them, you know.
Yeah. Which is just kind of like a warning. I mean, it can
happen
really
to
happen to anybody. Oh man. But dude, I don't even. I'm kind of like speechless, honestly. That's a lot to take in, and I mean, what do you think helps you like through this? Is there anything that helps you?
Yeah, I mean, I come from a pretty good family, and like statistically, they say people that had like worse family life and such, like growing up, or they suffer harder. So I have like a strong support system at home, like from my parents to my sisters to my current wife now, you know. They're all open to talk about anything and like come home to like open arms and things like that, you know.
Yeah,
that's good. Fitness, I mean, I stopped working out for like 5 months one time since it happened, and like I noticed things like creeping in. So I just think burning off the cortisol, you know, with fitness, like that's the best way. And I guess if that's like running from it by just like keeping myself busy and motivated, I have hobbies and I work out like daily. If that's like running from it or whatever, then I'm just gonna run until I die. If that, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, dude. I agree with you. Fitness is huge for me. I don't think it necessarily works for everybody, but for those that it clicks with, I think it works bigly.
Yeah. Just like keeping yourself busy, you know. If I was just like sit around and drink, like me personally, drinking doesn't work for me. Like,
yeah.
I've only really like had like, I mean, obviously there's a few breakdowns from it over there where you're crying and you're just upset and you don't know what's going, like, you know. But like I went to a dark bar one time with like it's like a SEAL bar in Coronado, and Irish bar, and it's like dark in there, and they have all these like lost SEALs and dead brothers on the walls, you know, all around the top. And like I was sitting in there and we had a few drinks, and like everyone was just kind of war chatting, and I was like look up there, and like they weren't the pictures of my buddies, but I saw my buddies on those pictures, and I was just like, I got to get the fuck out of here, man. And I just like bounced out. Like that's the only real, like, I guess what you'd call episode of it. But it like, I went out of there and I was like, just like pissed. But like, what do you do with that anger? You know, like being pissed doesn't fix it. Being sad doesn't fix it. It happened.
Don't put it on somebody else. Put it into the iron, dude. Yeah. I think that's what I've found through lifting, like specifically just like lifting weights. For me, it's pouring that intensity or anger that comes up into an inanimate object, you know?
Yeah, it's just energy, really, you know?
Yeah, it is.
Dispersing it somewhere else. It's, like, I have some hobbies that I, you know, do. I like to make music and mess around on Photoshop with pictures, and that stuff just kind of keeps me busy, and training and still doing the job, you know. I'm still in it, so
yeah.
It's like another reason, you know, you train is because like in a moment like that, like I didn't mention it, but I think we were up for like 72 hours before we ended up down in I might not say it right, Bastion.
Yeah, yeah.
We ended up down there, to like ship our brothers home on the plane, which like this huge turnout from all of Leatherneck like there, and all these people that didn't even know him were talking. And I'm not saying they didn't deserve that. It's just like it took like a really intimate moment and like exploded it onto a large stage, and that was really hard to digest too. But I mean, that's it. That is what it is. We're all brothers in arms, just because we didn't know each other,
Yeah.
That same deployment is the time when Leatherneck got attacked, and I'm talking about his plane, the helicopter got burnt and everything like that.
Yep.
It's like towards the end of like like the next set of the cycle, like kind of everyone started gearing down, if you will. But like all those places are gone. Like that's back to Afghans now.
Yeah.
And so like I don't know, just like why?
Yeah.
I hate to be the guy that says why, but why? Like
it is tough when you start looking at it through the lens of politics and geopolitics and like why. What are we doing in Afghanistan? What's the measure of success? And I think the guys on the ground have the toughest shit to deal with because you're pouring everything you have into doing the best job that we're trained to do, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, Pouze was like fucking peaceful and shit was working, But as soon as we fucking left it, went back exactly to the way it was, And it's just a lot of those areas. It's just
it just kind of like goes to show that like a cell sword, once a cell sword will always be a cell sword, If you're a gun for hire because America can pay you more to protect your own neighborhood, but like America leaves, cash leaves, like need food, need like stuff to protect our family, like who's there that will pay me for the skills I've learned? Well, Taliban or whatever you want to call them, like whatever acronym they get. They're extremists that don't agree with the Western world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean, though?
Yeah.
Most of those guys are there for that paycheck. They don't.
Oh, yeah. No. I mean, the whole... It's a... I would say I speak to it a lot in some of my early podcasts about, my brother and I and a cousin of mine that wrote a book on total war. Like, we really dissected how we're fighting wars now, and just we're very effective. But my cousin puts it a really good way. It's like myself, I'm like a 220-pound dude, right? And let's say a 220-pound heavyweight MMA fighter, right, is fighting like a 5-foot skinny guy that's worked in an office all his life. That's sort of like the setup of who our enemy is, and what we're capable of. But then we take that MMA fighter and we like strap both of his arms behind his back and like tell him he can only sit down during the fight. And so this little guy comes up and like starts hitting him, and it's not affecting like this dude. You're not wiping out the US, right?
Yeah.
And he headbutts this dude, and that dude stumbles back or whatever, but he like comes back, and we never fully just like unleash. And
it would be cool if we just like Daniel the Barbarian, if we just went back to like conquering people. Like you fuck around, you get conquered, and now you do things our way. Like it sucks because that's not the way or whatever. And maybe,
or I guess what I would argue is either be fully in or fully out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so just because we are capable of conquering everybody, it doesn't mean we should.
No, I don't.
And,
I mean, like if they came at, if it's time to go in, let's go in.
But the whole nation needs to be behind it and be able to accept what it costs to actually do that. And right now we don't have a nation that does that. Everybody, politicians have no skin in the game, and they they reap the benefits from any successes, and they push blame for any of the failures, you know?
Yeah.
And the problem is we have a lot of political stuff that's bled over into the military. And so now you're dealing with that same thing. You have, you know, generals and everything who will take all the successes of, you know, Puzé and the peaceful time that was there, and they write a book about it, and, you know, and then there's a failure, and it's never anybody else's fault, you know?
Yeah, I actually just remember the point I brought up earlier.
Yeah.
Like the hardest thing was after the fact, like say 72 hours later, got back up from Leatherneck, and you're like, everything's like going back to the grind. It's still the same game, but like, I don't remember the 3-letter agency that came in. You might remember what it's called. But they come there and they interview every single person, and they really like get down to like the real like forensics of what happened. And like the interview is just like asking you, why'd you do this? Where were you? Why were you there? And like that shit just got like, I don't know one team guy that like even appreciated that at all. I mean, obviously I get it. They have a job to do. They got to figure out what happened. How can they implement controls to make it less risky and that it won't happen? But geez, those questions are just.
But is there a need to like feel like dudes have to like defend what they did in that scenario, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. Is just like, it sucked. It was just like, dude, I just wanted to be like, fuck you.
Yeah.
Eat a dick.
I think the military would benefit a lot from looking at the human factor of things and treating guys as not just another cog in the machine, but respecting the fact that they're humans, and treat each other with a little more respect. And with that, you'll, you know, I don't necessarily know what my point is with that, but I mean, what do you think? Like, I think there's a lot of, you know, I guess when guys have stuff going on in their personal life and shit like that, and guys are worked to death, you know, they're just like deployment after deployment after deployment, and then all of a sudden something goes wrong with them, and it's like, yeah, fuck this dude, like we're gonna fucking, you know, destroy this guy. And it's like, well, there was a reason he got to this spot, you know?
Yeah.
And I guess I've noticed the military does not look at, like, doesn't treat us as we're human. Like, we're people are faulty, you know?
When you're good, you're good. And then as soon as, like, you're injured or hurt or mentally hurt, you know, like that, I mean, like, maybe you have some mental scars or whatever, they just kind of pass you over.
Or something goes wrong, right?
Absolutely.
Like in you guys' case, and they're coming firing at you like, what the fuck happened here, you know? Instead of being like, hey man, I know this is like really tough. I have some questions, and like being very respectful and reverent, you know, during that process, as opposed to like interrogatory or like it's an interrogation, you know?
Yeah, they're just like, they ask like my particular, like to really break down, like they'd be like, why did you guys have all of your kit and all of your guns in one area? Why didn't you have them, you know, why didn't you keep them in your rooms? I'm like either way you do it. So if the attack would have happened in the barracks area where people were sleeping, and now your kids are unprotected inside of there, you know what I mean? Like, no matter how you skin it, like, it's a bad, like, you got to make a decision where you're going to keep that stuff.
Yeah.
And that's the decision that our captain had made, you know? So, like, I don't understand why he's questioning me about it. I'm like, if I would have kept it in my room, what if I would have been in there when it happened? Then my stuff would have been in my room and not there, you know?
What if a guy forgets to lock his room? Like,
it's just like silly questions that, like, I just want to.
Or the fact that the dude didn't even use any of the kit stuff. Like, what's the, you know, what's the relevance?
He just, exactly. But then it's like, well, maybe that's not, maybe you guys should have it like on you at all times. I'm like, have you ever worn it? Like, it sucks to wear for 20 hours straight.
Maybe we shouldn't give, you know, the partner nation forces we're working with weapons at all. Maybe we should just tell them to walk around without them.
Yeah, there's another thing about the partner nation forces. Like I said, they were sell swords a minute ago, but at the same time, like I treated a couple guys. One guy got his guts shot out, and we stapled him all up and got him ground evac to Lashkar Gah and got him fixed up, and he healed. And then like he's like back on the line, like doing the job. They're not all. Some of them do care about their communities and such.
Yeah.
They're like, some of them are good guys, and whether people want to pretend like they're not good warriors or not, they're pretty hard men. Like they live in conditions that I don't think many have ever lived in.
Right.
And they keep coming and doing their thing.
I would agree with you. I've noticed some people that were just like, fuck all these guys, like, you know, fuck them, you know?
Yeah.
But there's a couple that actually shine. They're kind of like little all-stars. We had this one dude that loved to carry the PKM, which is not light. And as soon as we get back from a patrol, he'd be like, when's the next patrol? Let's go. I want to take this village and make sure it's safe for my people, you know? Yeah. It's like those little like redeeming moments where you're like, okay, this is why we're working with these dudes, or, you know, and then some fuckhead fucks, you know.
Yeah, and up until the moment that he was like a fuckhead, he was like, the human factor had been taking place. Like, he shows up for missions, he goes on missions with us, he does what he's supposed to do, he's at the checkpoint he's supposed to be at. I mean, like, he didn't have any indicators of like, I'm going to turn on you guys, you know, just like a religious extremist, more money. I don't know what his motivating factor was, but he got in there. And the one good thing you could say about it is maybe they tightened up changes, and things might have changed for like how we do business and how we conduct paydays, and
we definitely learned a lot.
How we do shuras, and like, so that will keep the next group of guys safe to maybe learn from our mishap, if you will.
I will say though that I was more on edge after that, and
oh yeah, it definitely.
And I was constantly just in that, ready for something to happen, an entire deployment. So it was just, I found that hard when I came back, and just trying to turn that off or whatever, you know, like the whole, oh, you know, it's never over. Like, you know, just being able to like, I still felt like I needed to be ready for anything to happen. And then you come back to the US and you have like these massive shootings happening in, like, you know, the club down in Florida, and
or Paris,
you know, and like the cops in Dallas and all this stuff. And it's just that kind of like, it's hard to come down from that. And and I will say it's not, I don't think it's something that needs to be stigmatized or looked down on. It's not necessarily a crazy thing. It's just you're hardwired at some point. And there is, you can wear yourself out if you're just constantly in that and not finding it like some peace and tranquility. But it's also not bad to be alertful. You know what I mean? It's not like you're hurting anybody by being like ready for anything bad to happen, you know, but it can wear on you personally and, you know, make you tired.
Yeah. I don't even know how to say, like, I don't know how to turn it off like you just described. I don't know if any of us do after all that. Like, it's just constantly there. Like gaming a plan, even when you probably don't need one, you know, but it might make you better, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it's like what General Mattis' quote is, you know, be what is it? Be nice,
respectful to everyone you meet, but have a plan to kill them. Is that something? Like, that's probably a paraphrase. I guess.
Be ready to kill anybody. Yeah, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that. But I will say, it can wear on you. And so what I've found, I guess, works for me is choosing specifically to give myself periods of time where I'm looking introspectively and checking inside, instead of just being like, what's coming from external. Like, let me look internal a little bit and get a good check. And I found that through like meditation, getting out in nature where you don't have to necessarily worry about being around all the bad stuff that can happen, you know? Like, what's the worst that's going to happen out here? Like, I'm going to run into a bear or something. Like, you have to be in bear country for that to happen, or, you know. So those are ways that I've found is important, and why, you know, for veterans, and I say even active duty guys, taking time on leave and getting outdoors, going on hunting trips, like, you know, if you're into that, or just the recreational therapy thing, I kind of looked down on for a little bit until, you know, I went on a couple hunting trips and stuff, and then all of a sudden it clicked. It's like, okay, I get that this isn't, recreational therapy isn't a fix-all. It's not like you go to this trip and it's like, we've healed this person of, you know, PTSD or all their troubles from war or whatever. It's really just a continued medicine of like a way to check in with yourself, and then, you know, kind of become rebalance yourself, and then go back to, you know, your normal life, whatever that may look like. And so yeah,
I think like human interaction's like pretty good too. Like some people are introverts, but for the most part, all humans like need other humans, and like having a strong community, like someone you could come share a podcast with. Like, I don't talk about this very often. It's a pretty heavy subject, you know, and not everyone wants to hear it, but like, I actually feel relieved. Like, I feel better, and I just like happy to have the opportunity to, I guess, seal it in a video audio format where it's a time capsule, and like, that's the story.
And I'm glad that this was good for you, dude. I mean, it's like this, I can't agree with you more. Finding people that you can trust and talk to and share these experiences with, so it's not just all in your head fucking bouncing around. Is important for people, and I think there's application for people that haven't gone through this deployment or an insider attack. You know, it's like people suffer traumas in all walks of life.
It doesn't, like, that's the biggest thing. People are like, oh, you weren't blown up. Like, how do you have PTSD? Like, you could get it from, you know, wrecking your car. Like, it's just a stressful event. That's all it has to be for those chemicals to fire off.
And each person's different.
Absolutely, yeah. I like your approach on it, though. I don't feel like some people I see out there, like, using it as a shield to, like, try to get extra acknowledgement or benefits or something. I don't feel like that you're doing that, or anyone.
No.
A lot of the guys I know aren't doing that.
Yeah.
And I hate to see it used like that, because then it deflates the effect of when you tell someone, hey, man, I sit at home at night and replay events over and over in my head. You know, like,
I would say, like, doing what you said some people do helps stigmatize things. That's when you start having these where, for example, my cousin ran for Congress in Dallas, and I was volunteering to help him during his campaign. I go and I'm like, you know, working outside of a poll station, like, oh, hey, have you decided who you're going to vote for? And if they're not, like, you have to stand a certain distance away, so it's not like, you know, electioneering or whatever. Mm-hmm. But I'd talk with people, and they'd be like, oh, yeah, like, I know about your cousin. He was a Marine, blah, blah, blah. Thinking about voting for him, but I'm just worried he's got the PTSD. It's like, okay, like, what? Just because he was, like, a Marine, you know? Or with no history of, like, yes, he deployed to Iraq, you know, but he's an intel guy, you know. So just kind of blanketing, where you start, the people that have abused it, misrepresented, you know, veterans as a whole. It's the whole kind of like, let's whine about this instead of talking about solutions or like ways to help people, you know.
Yeah, like, the thing that really bothers me is, like, I didn't see it so much this 4th of July, but the past ones, you know, all the post about be considerate of veterans and such. I think that shit's malarkey, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in plenty of gunfights and around them. Yeah, I don't get any more scared than anyone else who wasn't aware a firecracker was going to go off and startled. It like doesn't chain reaction me into like psycho kill mode or I'm sad. It's just like, whoa, something scared me. And then you're like, oh, it was a firecracker. And then you like go on with your like business. You know what I mean? Like
it doesn't me either. And nor any guy that I've talked to about that topic that's been in combat.
Absolutely. So
it's like at what point do you're like, okay, what are these fuckers doing that are like complaining about this shit?
Just trying to get someone to be like, oh, you were in the... They want that thank you or that praise or whatever they want.
Or them to like go and make other people feel bad. Like, hey, don't you know you're not supposed to fire fireworks off because fucking so-and-so's a fucking Navy veteran that was on a ship or some shit? You know, like...
Yeah, it's just... It's silly. But so just stop that. Like if you're listening to this and you're one of those people, just stop doing that. Like if it does bother you, just suck it up for the day or the 2 days that they go off and then move on with your life.
Or like there's things I'll talk about in this podcast that, you know, is for like, hey, let's talk about how we can like better our situation, right? Improve. I like focusing on the positive ways of moving forward, keep moving forward, you know, in life. And so I'll mention things like I said, like where I came back, I felt like keyed up, but it's not something that needs to be stigmatized or that I need to tell everybody when I come in contact with people out and like, this is a different format when I'm talking about it, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas do I need to like come up to everybody and be like, when I come in a room and be like, hey, just so everybody knows, I'm really fucking keyed up right now and like watching what's happening, you know?
Hey, hi, I'm Daniel, and I'm pretty keyed up right now, so just back up off me.
So everybody just like, you know, you need to conform to like me or whatever. You know, I think that's the difference is let's keep open communication about it and let's talk about ways to like improve or ways to deal with that, right? Like I've found ways to work through that myself, you know? And it's just it doesn't need to be a deal, you know?
Absolutely. Like, I guess I never really like thought about myself as like needing a way to work through something, but I think if I become stagnant, then I would have to find a way to get unstagnant.
Yeah.
Like you said, just keep moving forward. Like
self-improvement.
Those dudes that fell that day, they wouldn't want me to sulk or they want me to go out and be like the best I can be. That's the type of guys they were, you know? Like, so, and that's the same way I am. If I like, you know, if I go down in action and carry on smartly, you know, keep improving, you know, do something fucking fun for a couple of days or wild and then get back to like what you do.
Yeah. Yeah. Such is life, dude. But again, I think we've gone long enough but I really appreciate you taking the time and, you know, wanting to share your story and getting it out. And thanks for joining me today, dude.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I like what you're doing, so keep it up.
All right, dude. Let's end this.
All right, out.